What is up, everybody? This is Lyle with No Hippie BBQ, and last week I did a cured pork butt, and I took it into work and did kind of a taste test between a cured pulled pork and a regular pulled pork, and I was surprised by the outcome. The cured pork butt kind of ran away with that. So I'm cooking some ribs for a automotive mechanic shop, whatever, and I figure I'm going to try the same thing with ribs. So I'm going to cure 2 racks of baby back ribs in the same cure that I did with the pork butt, and let it cure for about 5 days, and then we'll cook 2 just regular, and we're just going to season these up with, I'm going to just make up a pork rub, and that's going to be our seasoning. But this really comes down to the cure. Now, as far as the cure goes, I'm going to leave in the description what my ingredients and amounts are in the description, but I'm also going to leave a link to where if you are planning on curing any kind of meat, it'll take you to a page where they have, you just punch in a few different items and it'll tell you exactly how much you need of each ingredient. Now, as far as the curing process goes, really all that we need is Prague powder #1, which is a pink curing salt. And the brand I prefer is Hoosier Hill. I'm going to leave a link to where you can buy this in the description below. And salt. What I'm using is a few other ingredients. So let's get on to those. So I have my Prague powder #1, the pink salt. I have some kosher salt. And typically what you would use is 2 cups of kosher salt, but I'm using 1 cup of just some other random half-open bottles of seasoning that were in my cabinet that I need to get rid of. We're going with some brown sugar, some curing or some pickling spice, and 4 cinnamon sticks, as well as some honey. First thing I need to do is get most of these ingredients in this water. I have about 1 gallon of water, and this is just the gallon to start off with. So we got our salt, our barbecue rubs, our brown sugar, our pickling spices, and our cinnamon sticks. I'm holding off on adding our honey. You could also use maple if you want to get kind of some sweetness going on with it. And our Prague powder we're going to add once this is heated up and cooled down. As far as our ribs go, I'm going to remove the membrane before we get them in the cure. So let me get this on the stove, heat it up. When it cools down, we'll pick it up. So I brought everything that was in that pot to a boil. Now what I've done was I put a liner inside of a bucket, and I'm using one of these turkey-sized oven bags that you could buy just at your regular grocery stores. That's what the ribs are going to go in. And I put a bunch of ice under the bag to kind of keep it cool. It should be cool enough in Colorado because we're at about 35 degrees or something like that, and it's going to get colder over the next few days, so we should be fine. I will be adding ice on top of this and under it throughout the curing process. So first thing I'm going to do, add our cure in here. And then our last 2 ingredients we need to add is our curing salt and honey. You know, we're just going to add about 4 ounces or so. Stir this in. And one thing I can tell you from the last time that I cured that pulled pork, that cinnamon stick, that brings some good flavor in. So if you happen to have some around and don't have anything to do with it, throw it in this. Alright, as far as these ribs go, I was going to remove the membrane, but these particular ribs had membranes that were so thin that they weren't really even that detectable. So I'm not going to even pull the membrane off of these. Let's go ahead and get these in. Okay, so we got 2 of those. Push that down a little bit. 2 of those in there. Now I did add another gallon and a half of water to this before I added the ribs in, so we're right at about 3 gallons of water. I'm gonna close this top, and when I'm done with that, I'm gonna add some more ice onto the top of this, so we should be fine. It's Monday. I plan on cooking these on Friday morning, so these should have a chance to cure for about 4.5 days. Due to some snow out here in Colorado, these did have a couple extra days to cure, which should be fine. It's still a little bit cold outside. I plan on cooking this on my Z-Grills pellet smoker. I haven't tried cooking on this thing in that 30-degree range, so we'll see how that works. If for some reason it's not up to par, we're going to take it out and use our offset smoker, maybe one of our kettles. As far as the seasoning goes, gotta rep another YouTube channel that has a restaurant in Colorado, GQ Barbecue. I'll be using some of his rub on these ribs. These are gonna be kind of dry ribs, but what I do plan on doing throughout the cook is spraying it down with just some mango juice just to do something a little bit different. So that's what we're gonna do. These are our cured ones over here. And I might stick a toothpick or something in these just to identify them as the cured ones. And these are the uncured ones. I'm not going to be using a binder. And the reason is I'm going to let it get a little bit warmer outside. So these ribs are going to have a chance to kind of sit for about 35 minutes before we get them out there. So the rub should be pretty well penetrated at that point. Now I'm not going to go with the super heavy application of rub on it. So that's the bottom side of these ribs. I'm going to let that soak in a little bit, then we'll flip them over and get the other side. So this rib's had a chance to soak in on the back side. We're going to get the top side. And the reason I'm not going with a lot of rub or sauces or anything like that is that, like I said, I'm going to be taking this to an automotive shop. And I really want to see what their thoughts are on this cure versus the regular, so I don't want to have a bunch of sauce like disguising it. So that is that. Let's go outside and get on this smoker. Now one of the things I do want to say is these ribs are hanging a little bit over that drip pan, and that's really not optimum. I keep the inside of my smoker pretty clean, so I usually clean out the entire drum every time I use it. So that shouldn't be that big of a problem, but that is definitely something that you want to watch out for. If you do that a lot and you don't clean your drum, you do have a chance of getting a grease fire in here. Anyway, we're going to be cooking these on our smoke setting to start off, and I'm going to let it go for about an hour on the smoke setting. We will kind of check in on it every now and then as I spray it down with some of that mango juice. So let's shut it down. So we're an hour in on these ribs. Let's open it up and take a look at it. I can tell you this Z-Grill is running like a champ. We're about 38 degrees as far as temperature goes out here, and this hasn't missed a beat. We've been on the smoke setting for the first hour. I'm gonna pump it up to, you know what, I got time. Let's just go to 275 degrees. And I was gonna spray these down, but the bark hasn't set on it yet, so we'll check back in on it in another hour, see if we need to start spritzing them down. So we are an hour in on these ribs, and as you can tell, that rub is kind of starting to set on here. So I'm gonna hit it with some of that mango juice. And I'm just doing this just to add another layer of flavor. And I can say that GQ rub is putting some good color on this. Alright, we'll check back on this in about another hour. We are 3 hours in on this, and this is probably going to be the last time that I check these ribs before I get ready to pull them off. And I can tell you that this grill and this temperature has been holding that temperature pretty steady, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and hit it with some more of this juice. telling you the color of these ribs, looking all that. I'm going to continue spraying them down once an hour, but the next time you see me, we will be pulling these off the grill. So guys, these ribs just came off the smoker. These two over here are the cured ones. These are the regular ones. And I mean, these absolutely look beautiful. You can't really tell which are which from the outside. So it's going to be all about taste. So you know what? I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get any footage down at the automotive shop. They might be busy, so I'm just going to cut a little off and kind of do a little taste test myself. So this is the non-cured one here. Let's take a bite. Man, that GQ rub, dangin'. Okay. Let's get into this cured one. Now this rib over here gets a little thinner at the bottom, so I'm just going to cut off one of these little bottom pieces here. And this bone, you know, that's not big enough. Alright, so this is a cured one. Now this one does have more pink all the way through. The other one had a little smoke ring on it, but this one is definitely pink all the way through. You can definitely taste it. It has that cure, kind of almost a ham flavor through it. A little more salty and a little more sweet all the way through. So, you know what? This is something that I really like the flavor on it, but I could see it after eating maybe 4 or 5 ribs, you know, maybe having a little bit too much of that hammy kind of a salt flavor to it. Nice experiment though. I really like them. Hopefully I'll be able to get some footage up here at the mechanic shop. So let me get these things cut up into ribs and hopefully we'll be able to get some footage over there. Alright guys, we are up here at Keller Automotive with Patrick and Austin. Now Patrick is eating, or he's starting off with the cured one, and Austin's starting off with the regular one. So just get on in and take a bite of both of them and kind of let me know what you think about the two.
Really good.
Yeah, that one's good. Definitely.
Alright, bye.
You're missing out.
Dude, I could eat another bite if my life depended on after that sandwich.
Alright, get in on one of them other ones right quick.
Mm-hmm.
Juicy.
They're both good.
Oh, yeah.
Prefer either one?
Mm-hmm.
Cured seems to be a little bit saltier. Not bad. Just a little bit saltier.
That was one of the things I noticed earlier.
Mm-hmm. This one definitely a little bit sweeter. I'd eat a ton of them either way.
Austin, what about you?
A little salty on that one, but not bad. That was sweet too. Really good though.
Mm-hmm.
Alright guys, there you have it. Nice little experiment. So that's what they both thought about those ribs. Now both of those guys thought that the uncured ribs were a little bit sweeter than the cured ribs. And I thought exactly the opposite. And the only thing that I can think is maybe they weren't able to distinguish the difference between the salty flavor in the cure and the sweetness of that as opposed to the basic rib that wasn't quite as salty. Either way, as far as which one is better, I mean, if you're going to be making them all the time, probably just your regular basic ribs. I think the cured ribs would be a little bit more of a delicacy because you probably can't eat that many of them just due to the higher salt content. As far as the salt content goes, it probably wasn't as strong as like a cured ham, but it was noticeably more salty. Anyway, I thought that was a great experiment. I will be making more of those cured ribs one of these days. I'd like to thank you guys for stopping by No Hippie BBQ. I appreciate it. Comment, subscribe, and I'm out.